Hello students, welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. Today we are going to discuss about the critically endangered species of India. But before discussing about that, first of all we have to understand that there is an organization called as International Union for Conservation of Nature or IUCN installed. It is this organization that is responsible for publishing of a list that is called as Red List, or sometimes it is also referred as Red Data Book. And it is in this Red Data Book that IUCN, we can say, precisely defines the criteria so that it can evaluate the rate of extinctions of thousands of different species all across the world. Apart from that, in this Red List, they also give information regarding the taxonomic data. Taxonomic data means the different types or different species of different types of animals that are found all across the world. What are their numbers and what is their distribution pattern? Apart from that, IUCN also declares their conservation status. We have total 8 major conservation status are there. It ranges from extinct to not threatened. And third is, as we discussed, the distribution information, that which species of plants or animals are found in which part of the world. Now, if you try to understand slightly about the International Union for Conservation of Nature, its headquarters is located in the Gland, which is a city in Switzerland, and it provides us with accurate data on the status of different species on the earth, as discussed before. Apart from that, it has 3 major objectives. The first objective is to provide scientific data on the status of a species and subspecies at the global level. Second is to address the factors of concern and spread awareness regarding the species and biodiversity extinction, because a lot of species which are very rarely found in different parts of the world, many times due to lack of awareness, people are not aware that they are rare species. They engage in hunting or engage in killing of these species, animals and birds, and that is what threatens their this existence. So by creating awareness and by ensuring that a concern arises in the society, IUCN tries to address the problem of the species extinction. And last is, it also tries to plan a layout for the conservation of biodiversity as a whole. The species of animals as well as their habitat need to be conserved if their protection is to be ensured. So this is what also IUCN is engaged itself into. Now, as we discuss that IUCN publishes a red list. So what are the main purpose or what are the main advantages of red list? So first advantage is that we have a lot of international agreements, for example, CITES, Ramsar Convention. These agreements take the help of red list data to make important decisions so that their decision is in synchronization with the status of nature as and when required. Not only international agreement, but also some organizations like World Bank Group, they also take the help of red list data to evaluate the risk of damage to biodiversity due to large scale infrastructures and road projects. Because when World Bank is financing any project, then they obviously have to do the environmental impact assessment, that what will the impact of this particular project on the biodiversity as a whole, as well as the number of species that might be living in that particular area. And third, like we have several at the local, smaller level, we have a lot of zoos and national park are there, both at the state and country level. So these organizations also take help of red list data so that they can upgrade their important policies like parks regulation from time to time. So these are 3 major advantages and purpose of red list data that is published by the IUCN. Now let us try to understand about the categories of red list. So as far as the categories of red list are concerned, we have total 7 main criteria are there. First is the extinct. The second is extinct in wild. Extinct means that we do not have any evidence of any single individual of that particular species to be present in the world today. Extinct in wild means the species only exist in the conservation park, in the zoos or something like that, but in the wild areas their population has become extinct. Then 3 categories are there which come under the threatened list, that is a critically endangered, endangered and vulnerable. Then we have not threatened, near threatened, and then we have the least concerned. Now near threatened are those species which, if proper or proper conservation measures are not adopted, then they can come under the threatened category. And then we have least concern, where the population number of species are quite higher and we do not have to worry about their conservation status as of now. Now on the global level, if you try to understand the distribution of different species within these three categories, what they can find that as per IUCN Red List of Threatened Species, total around 59,508 species have been identified. Out of this, if you look at the distribution, almost 3,801 are critically endangered, 5,566 are endangered, 9,898 are vulnerable. That means total almost 18 to 19,000 species belong to the threatened categories. Out of this, about 64 species have become extinct in wild and 797 species have become extinct. The largest proportion or largest share of the species out of the assessed species belong to least concern, which is almost, we can say, 45%. That is 25,853 out of total 59,508. Then 8,996 are the ones that are data deficient. Data deficient means we do not have, or IUCN do not have sufficient data so that it can put these particular species into any of the 7 above categories. So including data deficient, we have total 8 categories that IUCN try to include the different animals, different species in any of these categories. Now, what about critically endangered species of India? So, if you look at the term critically endangered, as per the IUCN, in the threatened category of the animal species, this is the highest risk category that is assigned by the IUCN. And how any species of animal can be classified as critically endangered? So for that, the IUCN has decided that if a natural population of a species has decreased or will decrease by 80% within the 3 generations, then they can be put under the critically endangered category. To give you an example, if a number of individual of any particular species of animal is 1,000, and I believe that in next 3 generation, this number will dwindle down by 80% and somewhere it will go down to 200 or less than 200, then they become eligible to be categorized as critically endangered species. And apart from this numerical value, quantitative value, IUCN also try to include the species as critically endangered if there is evidence of extremely high risk of its extinction in the wild. So if any animal species is at high risk of getting extinct in the wild, if you remember there is a second category, then that can also be put under the critically endangered category. So these are 3 major parameters on the basis of which the criteria of critically endangered species is set upon. Now, if you look at the first critically endangered species, now first of all we'll talk about the birds. So the first important critically endangered bird species that is found in India is something that is called as Jordan's courser. The scientific names of Jordan's courser is Rhinoctilus bitorquatus, and this is the picture you can see of Jordan's courser. Is very small bird. The habitat of this bird species, they are found in such areas which is like undisturbed scrub jungle. Scrub jungle, we can say that where the height of trees, height of the plants are very less, and it is like kind of xerophytic vegetation, kind of dry vegetation, which found in generally those areas where rainfall is very less. So undisturbed scrub jungle with the open areas are the habitat of this particular bird. Apart from that, other point about this bird you try to understand, and this is a nocturnal bird. Nocturnal bird means this bird does not this bird comes actually wakes up in the night and tries to hunt and find food for itself in the night and keep awake there. And for a very long period of time, this bird was not observed in India. It was near 1986 when the first time after hundreds of years this bird was sighted, and later on the area where this bird was sighted in 1986, it was recognized as Sri Lankamalleswar Wildlife Sanctuary in the state of Andhra Pradesh. As far as the habitat of this particular species in the distribution of this particular species in India is concerned, they are found largely, more than 85% of this bird species is found in the state of Andhra Pradesh, and about 15% are found in the state of Maharashtra. Apart from these 2 states, do not have any evidence of this bird in any other part of India. However, this bird species is also facing severe threats. The major threat that poses challenge to this particular bird is clearing of a scrub jungle. Large part of scrub jungles have been cleared out for various purposes, including agriculture or creation of pasture lands for grazing of animals, growing of dryland crops, because scrub jungles, we know that they cannot support all type of crops, but at least they can support dryland crops, especially like millet crops, as they require less amount of water for cultivation. So growing of dryland crops, plantation of exotic trees, quarrying for mining of various different minerals, and the construction of Telugu Ganga Canal, as well as illegal trapping of birds. These are some of the major extensive threats that poses challenge to this particular bird. The second bird species that is also put in the critically endangered category is we have forest owlet, that is a very, very small bird. The scientific name is Heteroglox blibati. The habitat of this bird is also kind of dry deciduous forest. The distribution of this bird in India is found in south part of Madhya Pradesh, in northwestern Maharashtra and the north central Maharashtra. So two states are there, and the Maharashtra and Madhya Pradesh, and we can see the border areas, that is southern Maharashtra, northwestern Maharashtra and north central Maharashtra. This is the border area where we have dry deciduous forest where the bird is found. The major threats that this bird is currently facing is of logging operations, because as they live in dry deciduous forest, and the dry deciduous forest of India are one of the main forests that is being cut down at a very high rate. So the logging operations, cutting down of trees, felling down of trees poses challenge to this bird. Apart from that, before cutting the trees, many times the people burn the trees so that it is easier for them to cut. And the burning of the trees damages the roosting and nesting of this particular forest owlet, and thus threatens the population. Now, a very interesting thing about this forest owlet was that for a very, very long period of times, this bird was not found was not observed in any part of the world, any part of India. So Salim Ali, who is was very well known ornithologist, he has actually put up notice and actually encouraged all the ornithologists and bird watchers to keep a lookout for this forest owlet bird. And it is in this reason it is believed that after 113 long years, somewhere in year 1997, the forest owlet was rediscovered and reappeared on the list of Indian bird. So Salim Ali has played a very important role in raising awareness about the forest owlet. The third bird that also belongs to the critically endangered category is we have very, very rare bird, extremely rare bird, that is called as white-bellied heron. The scientific name is Ardea insignis. This bird now lives in the areas near the riverbank areas where we have sand or gravel bars or inland lake areas. So this is the habitat of white-bellied heron. If you look at the distribution, so it is found in 3-4 major countries. One is Bhutan, then we have India, Bangladesh and Myanmar. However, it is not found in all part of India. This bird is confined to the northeastern India, especially in the hilly regions of this northeastern India. So we can say, if you look at the map, we have Bhutan, northeastern India, Bangladesh, Myanmar and Myanmar. They form a common geographical region that also is one biodiversity hotspot. So that is the reason where we can find white-bellied heron. The major threats that this bird is facing is loss and degradation of lowland forest and wetland through direct exploitation and disturbance. The next bird is Bengal Florikan, which is also known by the name of Cubaropsis bengalensis. Now the habitat of this bird is, they are found in the grassland areas where sometimes they are interspersed with the scrubland. So as we discussed, the scrublands are a very arid and dry kind of vegetation where rainfall is very, very less. But as we move from this scrub areas toward those areas where rainfall start to increase, now this scrubland gives way to the grassland, and further grassland gives way to the forest, and then forest give way to dense forest, light forest and something like this. So obviously at the border regions, this area we can see, this area can be desert region where we have almost non-existent water, non-existent vegetation. And after desert we'll have the scrubland, and after the scrubland we'll have the grassland. So in the areas of grassland and scrubland, we can find this Bengal Florikan in India. Now apart from habitat, the distribution of this bird, again, it is not found very widely in Asia, but 3 main countries are there, including Cambodia, India and Nepal, where these birds have been sighted. As far as India is concerned, these birds are found in 3 main states, that is Uttar Pradesh, Assam and Arunachal Pradesh. The main threat that this bird is facing today is the ongoing conversion of birds' grassland habitat for various purposes, including agriculture. Because grassland, generally the areas where these birds are found, this is tarai grasslands, and tarai grasslands also have sufficient amount of water, and that is why it can be converted into agricultural area, as we see mostly in the western part of Punjab, Haryana and Uttar Pradesh. So due to this, the grassland habitat is being severely cut down, severely degraded, and that poses threat to the bird's habitat. The important point about this bird is that it belongs to a bustard species, and it is very, very rare bustard species, and it is very well known for its mating dance. What they involve in something called as ritual dance, where they fly from the ground, then for certain time they spend in the sky, and they try to move to and fro to mark their particular area. Now coming to the next category of is mammals, the critically endangered mammals. So first important critically endangered mammals we have discussed about is Pygmy hog that you can see in the picture here. It is also known by the name of Porcula salvinia. The habitat of Pygmy hog, they are relatively live in the undisturbed tall terai grasslands, and formerly they were widely distributed along the southern Himalayan foothills, but due to the cut down of this grassland, as discussed before, the terai grasslands are continuously being converted into agricultural land. So we have a continuous habitat fragmentation and habitat destruction. Due to this continuous habitat destruction, now the Pygmy hog is found only in the Manas Wildlife Sanctuary and the buffer reserve of Manas Wildlife Sanctuary. Manas Wildlife Sanctuary is an area that is situated at the border of Manas, Royal Manas National Park of Bhutan and the Manas National Park of Assam. So in the Assam and Bhutan region, that is where we can find the Pygmy hog. The major threats, as I discussed before again, is the loss and degradation of grasslands, mainly due to conversion into agricultural land. Also, people, tribal people who live in this area, they sometimes practice shifting cultivation, that is also called as jhum cultivation. And the one of the major, we can say, characteristic of jhum cultivation is that burning of the forest and then spreading the ashes. So this also destroys their habitat. Apart from that, livestock grazing and conversion of human grasslands into the forest areas cause challenge and cause problem in survival of Pygmy hog. Apart from that, the other important point about Pygmy hog is that it is considered as the world's smallest pig, with adults only weighing 8 kilograms. Not only that, but it is also an indicator species of the grassland regions. Now, what is indicator species? Indicator species are such species which, if they are found in a particular floral, particular biodiversity or particular, we can say, habitat zones, then it signifies that other larger animals will be found there. For example, if we can find Pygmy hog in any grassland areas, then you can expect that we have larger animals like rhinoceros, wild buffalo, and such animals, elephants, can also be discovered and can also be found here. So that is why it is an indicator species, because it indicates the probability of other larger mammals to be present there as well. The next important mammal is Namdapa flying squirrel, whose scientific name is Biswa myopterus biswasi. Now, the habitat of this Namdapa flying squirrel is tropical evergreen and temperate forest. A tropical evergreen and temperate forest, the one major areas where this particular species is found and from which it derives actually its name, is the Namdapa Wildlife Sanctuary or Namdapa Wildlife Sanctuary, that is situated in the state of Arunachal Pradesh. Its half part is situated in the hilly areas and half part is situated in slightly plain areas, due to which it has both evergreen as well as temperate forest. So largely this species is situated in Arunachal Pradesh. Again, not all the part of Arunachal Pradesh, but only limited to the Namdapa Wildlife Sanctuary of Arunachal Pradesh. The major threat again is similar as other species: the agriculture and aquaculture, the biological resources use, geological events like earthquakes and climate change and severe weather phenomena can disturb, because the climate change and severe weather phenomena can destroy the grassland, can destroy the forest and damage the forest, that can in turn damage the habitat of this flying squirrel. The next we have is the Nicobar shrew, that is also known by the name of Crocodura nicobarica. Again, from the name itself, it is clear this particular species of rat is found, shrew species is found actually in Nicobar Island, that is part of Andaman Nicobar group of islands, and they generally reside in the forest areas, largely tropical rainforest areas. The threat again is similar, like residential and commercial development that encroaches upon the habitat of these particular shrews. Then we have agriculture and aquaculture that also disturb the habitat, and then we have climate change and severe weather phenomena. Especially in climate change, here we talk about the sea level rise can extremely threaten the habitat zone of the Nicobar shrew. Then coming to the third category of critically endangered species, we have to talk about the reptiles and amphibians. The most important of these are the gharials. The gharials are also scientifically known by the name of Gavialis gangeticus. Now, the gharials, the habitat of gharials, they generally reside in the clean rivers with sandbank. So, when they want to hunt, they enter into the river areas where they catch their prey, and when they want to rest, they come back to the sandbank and then rest there. So, clean river is sandbank, that is the most important habitat of this gharial. And since the Gharial population is continuously dwindling, it also gives us a fair idea about the health of the river system of India. Because since a lot of rivers are continuously being polluted, either due to agricultural waste or due to the industrial waste, the Gharial's population cannot survive in such dirty water, such polluted water, and that is what has caused a significant decline in the population of Gharials. As of now, in India, only one sanctuary is there called as National Chambal Sanctuary on the Chambal River, which is tributary of Yamuna River, where we have the viable population of Gharials are found. Viable population here basically refers to the population that is capable of breeding and producing offsprings. The small non-breeding population exists in other rivers, example Son River, Gandak River, Hooghly River, and Ghagra River. All of these are tributaries of Ganga. And if you look at the situation, then in the countries like Myanmar, Pakistan, Bhutan, and Bangladesh, earlier Gharials used to be found in the rivers of these countries, but now has become extinct, again largely due to the issue of pollution. The major threats that Gharials face today are the construction of dams, barrages, and artificial embankments, because they actually they stop the flow of river water and thus causes development of dry channel in the lower course of the rivers, and that is what causes the habitat fragmentation, and thus Gharials do not have the sufficient area to roam around and live through. Apart from that, change in river course, either due to continuous sedimentation or due to the flooding or due to earthquake-like activities, pollution, as I discussed before, the sand mining, because sand mining causes the erosion of the river banks, and also the sand banks erode and becomes lesser and lesser in width, that causes problems to Gharials. Then riparian agricultural and ingress of domestic and feral livestock cause irreversible loss of riverine habitat and consequently of Gharial. This is the map you can see. We talk about the National Chambal Sanctuary is the only area where we have the viable population of Gharial survive. So if you look at the National Chambal Sanctuary, it covers the whole Chambal River, and Chambal River originates from the Vindhya Hill that lies in the state of Madhya Pradesh. Then it flows to certain distance of Rajasthan, and after that it travels into Uttar Pradesh. So one important point you have to keep in mind, that National Chambal Sanctuary is spread over 3 states: Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan, and we have Madhya Pradesh. The next important critically endangered reptiles is something that is called as leatherback turtles, that is also called as Dermocheles coriacea. The leatherback turtles are believed to be the largest of living sea turtles and weigh as much as 900 kilograms. The major habitat zones where these turtles are found are the tropical and subtropical oceans. That means they cannot survive in the polar water where temperature is very, very less. And that is why, since they are found in tropical and subtropical oceans all across the world, they are located or situated in all the 3 major oceans, Atlantic, Pacific, as well as the Indian. The major threats that this leatherback turtle face today is the high sea fishing operations, because when to catch the fishes, the fishermen put out their net. Sometimes with fishes, these turtles are also get trapped and then they are brought up to the surface where they are killed. Then apart from that, harvesting of eggs, destruction of nests by wild species as well as domesticated species, because when these turtles want to lay down their eggs, they cannot do so in the water. They have to come back toward the beach area, toward the coastal areas where they lay down their eggs, and they try to we can say gouge the sand out and they put their eggs there. But due to presence of the various wild species and domesticated species, sometimes these eggs are damaged. The most important threat that is coming out these days is due to the artificial lighting, because the artificial lighting caused in the urban areas, especially in those coastal regions where urban development is quite high, quite intensive, there due to the light pollution coming from the urban areas, the small turtles which come out from the eggs, they get disoriented and start to move toward this lighted urban areas where they come under the traffic and they die out. Apart from this, we have construction, mining and plantation of exotic species that also cause severe damage to the leatherback turtles. Apart from this, the one other important fact about leatherback turtles is that they are excellent swimmers. That means on every 45 to 65 kilometers every day swim, and up to 15,000 kilometers they can travel on a yearly basis. Not even that, they can even dive as deep as 1,200 meters below the sea surface. And here jellyfish, that is most commonly found in the oceanic areas, on the most common fish, they are their primary prey. The next is the critically endangered species, reptiles and amphibians. We have the 4-toed river terrapin, or also simply called as river terrapin. The scientific name is Batagur basca. The river terrapin The habitat of this river terrapin are the freshwater rivers or lakes. And as far as the distribution is concerned, they are found in almost Bangladesh, Cambodia, India, Indonesia, and Malaysia. And the main threat that this river terrapin currently faces today is their flesh is in very high demand because it is believed to have some sort of medicinal effect. Apart from that, we have high demand of eggs of this river terrapin, as well as why the high demands of eggs are there, because they are considered as a delicacy by many rich people. So this is the major threats to the river terrapin. Apart from that, river terrapin plays a very important role in maintaining the marine food chain, because their diet consists of omnivorous diet. That means they feed upon animals as well as they feed upon the plants. So due to their omnivorous diet, they play a very essential part in efficient cleanup of the aquatic habitats, because the decayed and destroyed plants or dead animals, sometimes they clog or sometimes they keep floating in the fresh water, and by eating them, the river terrapin is playing a very important role in cleaning up of that aquatic habitat. The next critically endangered reptile we have is a gliding frog, that is also called as Rhacophorus pseudomalbaricus, and they actually live in the rainforest areas in the hilly zones, that means above 1000-meter height, 1000-meter altitude. Apart from that, in India, if we talk about, then Indira Gandhi National Park and surrounding areas of Annamalai Hills are there in the state of Tamil Nadu, where we have gliding frog that is found there. The main threat the gliding frog today faces is due to the conversion of forested areas for timber and non-timber plantation, as well as timber extraction activities that damages the forest regions of the Annamalai Hills and is causing habitat loss for the gliding frog. The one important point about this gliding frog is that they are endemic to the Western Ghats region. And endemic means if you try to trace their origin, trace their source, this is the region where they are only found. They are native to this Western Ghats and recently has been discovered for the first time in year 2000. So that is all about the critically endangered species, all the three birds, mammals as well as reptiles for India. Thank you very much.